Alright, so this part here is we're going to configure a PLC from scratch to get the shot clock working in a PLC. So again, in this particular example, we're using an L35E. I'm using firmware 20 in this particular processor. This is a blank PLC. There are no controller tags, no program, no Ethernet IP set up and configured yet. Okay. So the first thing that I like to do is come over here to our Ethernet port, and we want to right-click on Ethernet and choose a new module. And in order to configure the gateway unit, we need to set up a generic module. So if I type in GEN here for filters, I can filter here and find the Ethernet module, which is a generic Ethernet module, Allen Bradley communication. This is the module that we want to go ahead and create from scratch, or how we set up the gateway unit. The gateway unit does not have an AOP, and there's not really necessarily an EDS that is required if you use a Ethernet module on this particular case. Okay, so what we do here is we set up the Ethernet module connection from the PLC to the gateway module, and so we give it a tag name, and we'll give it LED sign, or we can say just shot clock if you want. Let's do something different. We'll call it shot clock. Okay, that's going to be our tag name. So this is a 4-digit shot clock. That's important to know. It's a 4-digit because the AOI can only handle 4 digits in that. So 4-digit shot clock is our description. And then the COM format, this is really important here. We want to change this to an SINT, or single integer value. And then we need to put the IP address of the gateway unit, which we haven't changed it, so it's 192.168.1.12. That's the target IP from the PLC to the gateway, and this is the gateway's Ethernet IP module. And so if we forgot some things, we can actually type that into our browser, because we're still connected to the same network, and we can kind of verify that yes, that is the IP address that we want. And then also, while we're here, what's kind of handy is if we go to Ethernet IP adapter, we can see these input instances and sizes here for if we want to set up an exclusive owner. So those are our numbers right there, our input instance. This is our input instance assembly number, so that's a 100, and it was 32 bytes, and this is in 8-bit format. And then our output instance was 150 and 496, I believe. Let's go back and double check that. So 132 bytes, 100 and 496 bytes, and then our config is 1 and 0 bytes. Okay, so our configuration here is 1 and 0 bytes on that, and that's all we've got to do there to set up the Ethernet IP. And once we've done that, we've got a new Ethernet IP slave configured to the PLC. And also what it does is it creates a controller tag structure for that, shot clock in and shot clock output on that. All right. And so the next thing that we would want to do is actually import the add-on instruction. So in order to import the add-on instruction into our blank project, we want to go over to the controller organizer tree and right-click on Import Add-on Instruction and click Import Add-on Instruction. And we'll want to browse to version 3.0. There should be a file that's been included called EDI ShotClock version 3.0. And we'll go ahead and import this particular add-on instruction into our PLC. And we can confirm here what it's going to do. It's going to import the AOI called EDI ShotClock. It's an ED202 4-digit display. The version of the AOI is version 3.0, and the revision note says added the start seconds on that, so that's correct. That was the last thing that we changed on the AOI. So we'll click OK, and it'll go ahead and import the add-on instruction now over here under the add-on tree. Okay, so now that we have the Ethernet IP set up, we've got the AOI set up, the next thing we need to do is actually create a program or a PLC ladder logic that we can drag and drop the AOI into. So we'll right click on New Program and select New Routine. We'll just call this a main routine, and it is actually the first routine, and we're going to create it as a ladder diagram in this particular case. Okay, so we'll go ahead and double click that, and we have now our first rung. And in Allen Bradley software, when we import an AOI, we actually get the add-on instruction added to the toolbar set. So if we click on the add-on tab up here and we hover over the EDI shot icon, it actually shows us a picture of what the AOI looks like. Okay, so we can go ahead and click this and drag and drop it right onto the rung, and I'll go ahead and make this kind of big so it makes for a nicer video. All right. And so in order to create tags here, we've got to basically create a tag name for the actual AOI instance. And so we'll give it a, I'll just give it a name ShotClock, and then I'll just say AOI, because that's the actual add-on block tag name. And so once I create the tag name in Allen Bradley World, we actually right-click on the tag and say New ShotClock. And I like doing this method because what it does is it actually creates the correct data type. And so when we type in a variable name here or a tag name and then we right click on it inside that particular spot, it will automatically know what data type that tag needs to be set up as. And in this case, it is the structure of the EDI clock, or the structure of this AOI that needs to be created. So we simply can just hit create here. All right. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to create the address tag. So we can go ahead and just make a tag called, we can just stick with the shot clock thing, ShotClock _ address, and we'll give it a tag name here and right click and say New ShotClock address, and you'll notice that it needs to be a string format. So we'll hit create. So the next thing we need to do is create our start minute. So we'll give it a shot clock and minute, and then maybe we'll do the shot clock while we're here, ShotClock _ second. Okay, and then we'll give the clear to enter. So maybe we'll just make that the same name. Make all these the same. Okay, so now that we've got those all typed in, we can just right click on this and say new, and that needs to be a double integer. And then right click on this and say new double integer, right click on this and say new, and that needs to be a boolean. And then we have our map sign input, map sign output. Now this is the actual connection tag. So whatever we name this connection needs to be here. So our connection is ShotClock input, ShotClock output. So what we need to do here is type ShotClock, and this is the config one. We actually want the input. And we need to drill in and go and select the data. So it has to say ShotClock I input dot data, and then this one is ShotClock O dot data on this particular case here. Okay. So again, what these are the input output targets that we created over to this slave device, which is then created as a tag name. All right. And then packet sent is just a tag that is used for debug, and so we'll have to create a placeholder for that. So we'll give it another tag name and right click on that and say new tag, and it's created as a string on that as well. All right. And once we've created all of this, we noticed that our errors went away, but we need to go in and fill in our ShotClock address in here, and of course our starting values here. So we can put a 9 in for that value, and maybe a 59 for this one, and then we'll have to find that tag that we created. And actually, I think I scoped it under program tags, which is not normally what you should do. You should probably scope this under controller tags, but that's okay for now. So I'll click on ShotClock address. Now the ShotClock address needs to be a 2-digit code. So when we powered up the sign, we noticed that the address was set for 01. So if you have multiple shot clocks being controlled by the same gateway, you would have a different address for each of the shot clocks. So this particular one, since there's only one shot clock, the address is 1, so we want to put a 01 in there for the shot clock address. Okay. So once we've got that all done, we should be able to go ahead now and we'll save the blank project. And we'll click on communications, and we'll try to do a download here and see if we can connect to our PLC. And it does and the reason why that worked is because our path name was already set, Ethernet IP 192.168.1.20, which is the PLC path target. And we'll go ahead and download this. And we'll switch into run mode here, and then we can go ahead and now check to see if our start minute. So we'll look at the video again. So we'll put a 7 in here, and we'll put a 0 in here, and it looks like the clock did change to 7 minutes. Maybe we can put a 1 in here, and then we'll do the clear to enter signal, and it should start counting down. So we got a 59, 58. So it looks like that's working properly. We'll put a 0 in here, and it will stop the clock. And then we'll put a 0 in here and a 10, and we'll give it a clear to enter signal here again, and it should count down again there. So on that, and let it count down to 10. And go to negative, and basically we should have something that works there. So if we put a 0 in here, the clock stops, and it resets it back to the appropriate start time counter, which minutes is 0, seconds is 10, and so forth. So that's how you start up a shot clock from a blank PLC project. We configure our Ethernet IP, we imported our add-on instruction, we created all of our tags that we needed. Don't forget to set your address, and probably the only thing that I would suggest is when we actually right-clicked on this and we created our tag, we needed to scope it for controller tags. That's normally kind of an etiquette that you would do. You wouldn't necessarily scope your tags under program tags. It would be scoped under controller tags. But for the purpose of this video, it still worked out okay in this particular case. Okay, so enjoy your new shot clock. If you have any questions, give us a call, and hopefully we'll be able to help you out. Thank you very much.